Pluto arrives. It's right at the turning point of World War II, not unlike where we are now. It's this unbelievable dark force that's coming over Earth. It represents what you saw with Hitler. That's what Pluto represents, the underbelly, the underworld, the power planet, intensity. It was also the same time that Einstein was working with fission and fusion, that inside a cell, they could break it down so small, and if it went the wrong direction to fusion, it could turn into a bomb and destroy and kill, or nuclear power could be focused and used in a very powerful way with a very simple effort without it being destructive. It takes a lot around it. So there's a dualistic nature to Pluto. And if it's in your chart and it's hitting you, and in your case this lifetime it's very strong, it means that you will destroy in the name of waking up. You want to change. You want to learn at all costs. It's the caterpillar's image that he eats his own organs in order to become a butterfly. But, you know, to a Pluto person, that's what I want you to feel right now. They go, oh, this is you, double Scorpio. I got this. Just a moment. Don't worry. We'll make it through here. That's what's true from a Pluto point of view. No matter what, you guys, the Earth will survive. The human condition will transform. AI will come in with new opportunities. And there's a very beautiful possibility that the great golden age.
Before we embark on today's conversation, I want to pause for a moment to soak in the immense gratitude I feel for each and every one of you. Week after week, you show up here, lending your hearts, your curiosity, and your presence in this space. What a gift it is to share this journey with you. When I first began these conversations, I had no idea what they would grow into. A tapestry of connection woven together by your stories, your messages, and your reflections. This community is more beautiful than I could have dreamt, and it's all because of you. Every note you've sent, every story you've shared about how these conversations have landed in your life fills me with profound sense of joy and purpose. It reminds me of the magic we create together, the way we're learning, growing, and celebrating the tender, messy, and extraordinary moments that make us human. So as we look ahead to 2025, I am so thrilled to share that there are even more luminous conversations, soul-stirring guests, and transformative stories waiting for us. Together, we'll continue to dive deep, ask meaningful questions, and discover new ways of being. If this space has touched your life, if you've even found a slither of inspiration, I would love for you to join our growing circle by hitting the subscribe button. It's such a simple act, but it allows us to expand this beautiful community and welcome others into the warmth we've created together. And now, my friends, let's take a deep breath and step into today's conversation, a moment of connection and discovery that I hope will leave your heart fuller than when you arrived. Thank you. What if the universe had a language, a way of whispering the truth of who you are and where you're meant to go? In this powerful conversation, Debra Silverman, celebrated astrologer, therapist, and storyteller, pulls back the cosmic curtain to reveal how astrology is far more than just your sun sign. It's a tool for self-discovery, a roadmap to understanding your patterns, and a way to step fully into your purpose. Expect a mix of humor, wisdom, and mind-blowing insights as we explore the planetary forces shaping your life and how to break free from the unconscious cycles keeping you stuck. The stars are speaking. Are you ready to listen? Enjoy. Well, hello, beautiful souls. We have another amazing guest for you. We have the beautiful Debra Silverman. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I have to say I was super excited. As I was saying, we had Debra a few years ago, so I am super excited to have you back on the show. So the way that we love to start is we always love to ask our guest, what inspired you to do what you do today?
You know, it came as a very instinctual childhood fascination with astrology. Literally, I was like a kid. You know how I don't know if you guys have that in Australia, where at the when you check out at the counter in the grocery store, they had these little scrolls with astrology on it. I would like, I want it. And then they had these really silly books that were astrology books that I couldn't. And then by the time I was 10, I found in the newspaper in the cartoon section, astrology was being like I don't even know. You put your name here, send a check in. I asked my mom to help. We sent it out, and that was my first memory of seeing the word astrology. So it came at a very, very young age. It's been a calling, a destiny line. I'm sure I left the Akashic records behind. And I said to them, yeah, I'll take that assignment. You want me to go down and be an astrologer? Sure, I'll do it. What was I thinking? So fast forward, it's almost 50 years, and I've been doing it since I was that young.
Amazing. And you do it so well. I love the way that you explain it. You explain it in such a palatable way because astrology can be quite complex and you make it easy for us to digest the way that you describe it. So for those who don't know astrology, I would love to probably unpack the basics of it because quite often people go, what's your sign? What's your sign?
Can
And
I use
people,
would you be okay if I used your chart?
absolutely, go for it.
Did you know I had it? You have to give me
No.
permission. So if you let me have permission, yeah, this is a great way to learn astrology is because you guys all know, like how long have we been listening to Catherine and we relate to her because she's our family now. That's what happens when you have a podcast that is so successful. So if I can share, let's see if it will let me. Here we have your chart. So you have a very interesting chart. First of all, here it is in English. Is this correct? March
Yes.
10th, 1966 in France.
Yep.
So here's the sun was at 19 degrees Pisces. When you were born on that day, the moon was at 11 degrees Scorpio. And it gives us all the planets in English. And we look at this chart and we look for the sun as a circle and a dot. And we see it's at 19 degrees Pisces. Now, isn't that interesting? Right next to it is this funny looking shape. That's Saturn. It looks like an upside down question mark. And it's also at 19 degrees. So if we look over here, look at that. Saturn's at 19 and your sun was at 19. That happens once a year for one day. And what that tells me immediately, because the sun is our life force, right next to Saturn, the planet of discipline, mission driven, purpose driven, hard worker, just like really keeping, you are such a hard worker.
Yes.
Is that true? Is that true or that's true?
I would say borderline workaholic. Yes.
Exactly. That is the alcoholic indicator. The person that runs my company has the same influence. And then you have right opposite this red line in the middle, the planet of power and adventure and eccentricity. You're bringing us a powerful, eccentric new future. It's your function this life. And we finish by saying you're double Scorpio. Your moon's in Scorpio and your Scorpio rising. So this is the beginning of astrology. The sun is important, the personality type. In this case, very unusual to have Saturn sitting exactly. You won't see, no one in this room is going to see that. It's highly unusual, one day a year. Just suggests that Catherine has a very strong workaholic impulse that's for us. She's serving us. Saturn on the sun, she is devoted to the service of this planet. And then adding fuel to the fire, she's got Pluto, the planet of power, supporting it, and the futurist. She's doing it in the name of the future. Does that resonate, Catherine?
100%. 100%.
And then we see that her rising, which is built from, I can't move this down, but the time of her birth makes her right here. You can see the rising 0 degrees Scorpio, and her moon is at 11 degrees Scorpio, which makes her a double Scorpio. Now, all of this is jargon, and I don't like to speak jargon because when I teach in my school, to your point, I make things very simple. But I wanted you to know there's two things I wanted you personally to know. The sun was conjunct Saturn exact degree. What a workaholic, crazy woman. And thank you for your service because you will never stop. With Pluto opposite going power and Uranus future. And then double Scorpio, the most focused sign in the zodiac.
Amazing.
You can't do half-ass anything. And I just want to say one more thing before we finish this, so you guys listen to the end. I'm going to tell you a little bit about prophecy because there is something about to happen in your chart. So I'm going to leave you on the edge of your seat, and then I'm going to have you continue this interview back to the classical groups conversation about what is astrology and why do we study it? And it's such an important question.
It is, absolutely. The one thing though that Deborah that I think is like I know all of this, but then how do you work with? I mean, obviously there's a borderline work. I was going to say alcoholic, workaholic. Well, I'm not an alcoholic, by the way. I love my wine. Being French, wine
But you
does
are
not
a workaholic.
I
But you
am.
are
Yeah. And so how do you maneuver through that? So knowing that that's my drive, but The consequences of that is burnout, which I've experienced twice. So how do you navigate, knowing that it's part of your makeup, how do you navigate through?
So this is my new book. This is the essence of my new book is if you can't, you can know. I love how you said it. I know all that. It's so double Scorpio. I knew all that. Okay, so you know all that, but is the observer operating? And this is the distinction in my book and in my work and my whole process is I am a Gemini and I am a very good communicator. I had to learn from my observer's point of view to stop talking, Deborah. Oh, did you just say it's okay to listen, Deborah? And then suddenly I realized, oh, wait a minute, this gift I have is not necessarily needed all the time. In fact, I changed my character design. And that's the function of astrology. The awareness comes on. I have Saturn on I'm pretending I'm you. I have Saturn on my sun. I'm a workaholic. I'm compulsive. I have a drive as double Scorpio. I cannot do half-assed. My observer just came on and started laughing at me and going, Catherine, you're doing it again. And then I look over at my observer and I laugh and I go, thank you so much. No judgments, no criticisms, just a feedback loop like Switzerland was talking to you. And now you get a vote. Will you stay awake inside the dream? Little Miss, get up early in the morning to do this interview. Like, you're so ambitious. Did you get a vote? Were you consciously aware when you made the decision to get up that early? Is it really important to you? Because if you're serving the family and sacrificing you, if you're serving our family, the collective, and Catherine is not being fed, that doesn't make sense.
So true. Absolutely. And so the trick is to be the observer, which is, once again, that takes a level of consciousness, being present when you're in the doing.
It's years. It's taken me years.
Okay. So it is
like, it's the same thing as meditation. How many of you in this room talk about meditation? Yeah, you do, but you don't. Tell the truth. You do it for 5 minutes, turn on. Nah, I did it once in a while. No, to be serious with the observer, as if it were brushing your teeth, as if you had to do it. And you start to watch yourself, and like, I'm in a very critical moment in my life right now. There's a lot of factors. So I have to constantly ask myself, it makes me, and this is how you know the observer's on, because it makes you laugh. You're like, oh my God, look at you, Deborah. So instead of being captured, and the practice is day by day, breath by breath, you turn on these podcasts. Why are you listening? Because some part of your mind, we love this about Catherine. She talks about things. I just listened to the Mayan calendar one. I was captured. These are important conversations that must be reignited because we left them in the back room. Somewhere we got the crazy idea that astrology was a parlor trick. Somewhere we believed that tarot cards were left for gypsies. Somewhere we believed that Akashic records was a thing of the imagination. No, those are all real. But in order for that to occur, you've got to study it, and it can't be just flighting through your ears. You have to take it seriously. You study astrology, or you study the tarot, or you study chakras or Reiki, but you guys, we are all addicted to podcasts.
Absolutely. Yeah. But I think it's funny. I was just talking about this the other day, Deborah, that we have this, I don't know if it's a conditioning, because I remember I used to listen to music a lot more a few years ago. Now I just listen to podcasts. It's this conditioning of accumulation of knowledge. I need to know more. And I feel like everyone's on the same journey as a collective. What are your thoughts?
You just really helped me. I'm going to just remember this podcast for a long time. I've gotten caught by the same thing. I'm calling myself out in public. If the fact is that music and reading, I love to read, which is diminished for me, reading and music and writing and dancing has gone to the wayside because my mind is starving to understand what is, like, it's scary. We're scared. We should be scared, but nothing's wrong. We can be scared without something being wrong. So I want you all to hear that. And part of the introduction of astrology, in the name of my book is I don't believe in astrology. So some of you are probably believers, but just to open that mind part up is the operating system of the human condition that doesn't allow your observer to be in the front of your mind, but instead you're just reactive. You just listen to the podcast, you're nervous, you have a cigarette, you have a coffee, you eat the sugar, you can't. All that reactivity is a result of the observer not being activated, and that's because we don't have any examples. Who are the people you know that you can count on? I mean, you would actually be very good in crisis. I would be with you, Catherine. People that get calm when everything goes wrong. Isn't that you?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's I've always been that way. In any situation in crisis, I have this real calming effect, and I don't ask me why. Although
I can
I
tell you
use
why. I can tell
okay,
you why. That's
yeah,
called double Scorpio. Scorpios are built for intensity. They feel better when life is being honest and alive than we're doing the pretense. They don't like the pretense.
yeah, no, it makes sense. But yeah, I've always been like really calm. Although I used to be, I have gotten better. A real worry wart. I used to
Oh
worry
no,
until
you're a worrywart. Oh no, you are. That's Saturn. That's different than Scorpio. You are a worrywart. You think of everything that could go wrong.
yes. I look at all, both sides of the dichotomy, the light and the shadow and everything. Yeah.
So it is so your chart. It's so funny. We are such funny ducks, how predictable our charts are.
Absolutely. But I think also, I think it's really important that astrology for me, and I think it's not woo-woo. To me, it's a science, but it's also a language. And I think it's important for everyone to understand that it is a language. And like you said it eloquently, once we understand our language, how it speaks to us, and then how do we then
Integrate
dance
it.
with it?
See,
Yeah.
that's what you're asking, and this is what my book's about. This is my life's work. If we don't put it in our bodies, like it's one thing to say you're a double Scorpio with Saturn on the Sun exact degree, with Pluto and Uranus. Okay, that sounds interesting. It's jargon. If someone understands astrology, they're like, oh, I can see that. She's double Scorpio. But then the application is what happens. This is where I step in as the therapist because I have a master's in clinical psych. So I'm not just doing woo-woo. I'm like back at the ranch when Catherine gets triggered and she feels like she has to go to work because when she's upset, she works more.
Yep.
That's crazy. And now you know that. And the observer comes in and goes, Catherine, you're stressing yourself. And you're like, okay, thank you, thank you. Now, it's a muscle. It's unnatural. It doesn't occur without practice. It's something that gets introduced when you start to study astrology, really, not just flirt with it, but actually use that part of the brain. I always say that our school is like Windex. Like you're going to clean out the windows that's in your higher mystical brain that you never used. And you're going to learn about the planets. And you're going to think, I can't memorize all that. That's not true. I teach it at a fourth grade level. And then once you get the technical part in level one, and it's all about personal transformation, it's not just learning astrology, you're always bringing it back to your body. Because my whole thing is, my original training was a dancer. I spent the first half of my childhood in dance. Then I went to university and studied dance. And then I turned into a dance therapist because I was clearly a healer, but I couldn't stop dancing. So I put them together and made up dance therapy. And then I went to graduate school and became a psychotherapist. And I realized that I never wanted to do anything in my life's work that wasn't embodied. Because when we get stuck in our heads, we get disassociated. In the Hopi Indian prophecy, the big description of the human condition in this moment is a stick figure. The first version of the humanity, when it was in its full position, it's a stick figure with a stick to the earth and a stick to the heavens. So there's literally a stick going up like a feather and then a stick like a walking stick. So you saw them connected to the heavens, connected to the earth. And then the new version, when it hits this point, the head is cut off. The head is not connected to the body. There's no more stick to the heavens. There's no more stick to the earth. It's a walking stick figure without connection. That's where we are now. And this is why the Mayans are so important and the Hopis are so important and ancient wisdom is so important because we're not going to make it through this threshold by reverting to the modern AI to get us to feel and be real and authentic and human and actually be somebody that you want to be friends with.
So when you're saying this is where we're at from a collective perspective, this is where we're at.
We
So
are
how does that,
disconnected.
yeah, I can see that. But then how does that affect you? So from a collective perspective, then from a personal perspective, because I always think like collectively, there's always stuff going on, but then it's how do we either dance or merge with what's happening personally and collectively?
I'm going to go back to what you just pointed out. You put music on and you sit in a circle with your friends and you sing, which I did the other night. You put your feet on the ground and get barefoot. You drink your tea really slowly and you drink your wine and you smell it and you luxuriate. You give yourself to this human experience with everything you got. That's going to change the disconnection between the head and the heart, the head and the body. If I, and I am, I have an integrity to be able to say I spend my life with a lot of essential oils. I mean, I have everything that smells good, feels good. Incense is burning right now. I make this experience. I have my orchids just sitting there, like you can see the orchids. I spend my life really committed to the earth element, your crystals, but you have to remember, I have to remember to put on the music, smell the flowers, and slow it down because that's what's going to reconnect the body and the mind. And that is the Hopi Indian practice, and that is the Mayans. I find it so interesting the Mayan calendar ended and
Yes.
said, and now we're done. You're on your own. Take it from here. And we gave you the wisdom. We predicted what would happen each season. We knew the kings were coming and going down, but this era is all yours. Bye bye.
I love it. And it's for me, it's also understanding that there is not a prediction tool, but an understanding of what's coming. You know, and we can interpret that in so many ways. And I think that everybody, I think that there's some astrologers out there that do amazing work, but then there's also the astrologers out there that create so much fear. And so I think that I think that's why there's this resistance to it. It's because I don't want to hear about it.
Yes, very good point. I want to just hijack on my last statement that the real practice is so important to be humble and to keep ourselves, in order to keep this game going and put the head and the heart back together. The first step is praying and asking for help. So I wanted to start with that. That is so important. And that is the indication to your angels and to everyone watching that I'm humbled and I'm praying and I'm asking for help. And they go, woohoo, we got a hot one down there. As far as astrologers giving negative prophecy, we can't see the future, just like COVID. All the astrologers knew something was going to happen during March of 2020. We can't see the future, but we can smell, we can sense, we can intuit, we can use our spider sense to go, oh, I mean, this isn't really hard, spider sense. Something's changing. Certainly in the American culture is radical. What's going on in Europe and the reconstructing of what it is going to be, the patterns of who's in power. Certainly in the political flavors in every single country. There is a lot of war. The word war returned. I don't remember how that happened, but we're back to war. That was the entrance of Ukraine that never left, not to mention all the others. So the question you're asking is, as an astrologer, the prophecy. To be honest, I feel vulnerable. I feel like this critical moment is, will we put down our phones? Will we put down our heads? Will we put our hands on our hearts? Will we enter the day with calm? Will we be the one that registers with the observer? Like, Catherine, you're working too hard. Don't do that. You're going to sacrifice. Like, how awake am I? Each of you can ask this question. Just stop for a minute. Put your hand on your belly and your heart. Take a deep breath with me. And just check in. How much, first question I want you to ask yourself, how much do I listen? 0 to 10. How able am I to listen? Just listen, just pay attention for a minute. Not that good, huh? How much do I obey? How obedient am I to the instructions from on high? When I get a directive, how obedient am I? Now you and I got a 10, like we're crazy people. Okay, that's good. And then the next question is, how willing am I to learn? That's going to be the most important question here. That needs to be above an 8 or a 9 or a 10, because if the willingness is to say, listen to these podcasts with the intention, then I'm going to practice when we finish this podcast, my hand on my heart. I'm going to really listen to my observer. I don't know what she's talking about. Get the book. I mean, I can't figure it out quite yet. I'm going to start really paying attention to which teachers, that's what I wanted to say, which old ancient wisdom system calls your name. I have a great teacher, Andrew Holchek, who does the Tibetan Book of the Dead. I've been captured by him. You should have him on your podcast. He's brilliant. I have a best friend, Colette Byrne Reed, who uses divination cards. I am totally devoted to her cards. They're at Hay House. She's a genius. I have a teacher who is a Hopi that I've studied for years with to understand the ancient. I really I work with the Hopis. You find your voice, and obviously I'm an astrologer. The ancient wisdoms are the ones that we can trust. The modern day jargon, as you said, about the astrologers and all the new age conversations and all the podcasts and Instagram and Facebook and TikTok, and can I keep going? That's dangerous. unless you feel a heart connection, you'll know who your teacher is and where you feel authenticity. And then follow that rabbit hole, not to the person. It's not me. I am just a good channel. It's to the ancient ones behind me. This is my beautiful piece of art. This is an ancient chart across time, and she's holding a light as the world cracks. And there's a fire back here. But she's never going to give up on that light, because that's the ancient wisdom that's been carried across all time. And that's my gift to the world. I am a wisdom keeper. And my definition of wisdom is going to make you laugh. Half of me is just dumb, wisdom. I know that I don't know. And it's, and the other half of me, like, I've collected wisdom throughout this lifetime. Wisdom, wise and dumb is what it takes. And I guarantee everyone in this room has some of it.
I love that. I've never heard that before. I just absolutely love that. But I think the reason I brought that up too is because when you talk about the observer, which I absolutely love, from a collective perspective, I always think that it's the meaning we give every situation. So could we collectively shift consciousness that is aligned with astrological forecast, let's say?
Big picture. Yes, 100% yes. And it doesn't have to be that you become an astrologer. It just means that you got the Windex out, you opened up that part of your brain and you went, I begin to understand compassion for the human condition. That's I have the first book I wrote was called The Missing Element, and the subtitle was Inspiring Compassion for the Human Condition. Like, the first half of the book that I wrote this time, similar, is talking about the human condition by design needs podcast. We need teachers. We need inspiration. We need crisis. We need difficulty. We need illnesses. We need heartbreaks. We need divorces. We need death as our wake-up call. That is just one of the truths about the human condition. That's in my book, both books, that crisis is the door to waking up. But to your point, what if, I love this question, what if the collective in our school system, for example, had the consideration to saying to a kid that just hit somebody, like, okay, we're going to show you the observer. Okay, stop. The observer doesn't criticize or judge. It's different than the critic. The observer says, Johnny, here's my best example. You're going to love this. My son is a double Aries, and he came home from school. This is years ago. And he said, Mom, he came home. He was like, so scared. I'm in real trouble. I was like, what happened? He goes, all the teachers put me in a room today. And I was like, they got so mad at me. And what are they so mad about? And he said, I hit the bully hard. I was like, you're a double Aries. Of course you hit the bully. Who's going to hit the bully but a double Aries? And he was like, what? I'm not in trouble. And I was like, Daniel, everybody was waiting to hit that bully, but you did it. And I'm not going to criticize you. My observer was on, like, from the big picture, I understood and he was like shocked. And then I called the teachers and I said, yeah, that kid drives everyone crazy. And by the way, someone had to do it. And yes, you can give him 2 days off. I don't care.
I love that. So
that would be the answer to your question. What if the school system had built in the reactivity of the human condition was put into our school system? So when the child behaved like that, if they were the bully and they had a chart that was really difficult, and we looked at this kid and we knew, we could say to the kid, you can't continue. We see your behavior. Nothing's wrong. But we all sat in a circle like they do in Africa, and we told the person who made the mistake and say, I'm so sorry, but you cannot. There's consequences and we love you, but that we don't have that yet. So you're in the future. So am I. Astrology is not the only piece that needs to go in the future. An adjustment to the human condition.
That's fascinating.
I hope I'm doing it. I hope I'm not full of shit. I pray that I'm an authentic example of being awake enough to know how to say I'm sorry, slow down when I'm going too fast, take a breath.
I love it. But it's fascinating just the way that you described it. They should have it in schools because it gives them more compassion towards the individual, because you have an understanding this is part of their makeup, and then you could have the right resources to help them apply, or work with whatever's in their chart. I think every school should have it when you think about it, because not only you more compassionate towards the other person, but then you as an adult, as you evolve, you're more compassionate about who you are and more
100%.
accepting. I love
100%.
that.
I love it. So I'm going to tell you the craziest story. I lived in Vancouver, Canada. My son was going to, I wanted him to go to this great private school, but I couldn't afford it. So I offered the headmistress, if I did astrology for your whole school, all the teachers and all the students, could my son come? And she said yes. So I went into every classroom and I did all the charts of the kids, met with the teacher, told all the kids, sat the kids in the classroom and said, and now kids, you're going to learn, I'm Harry Potter's assistant, is what I said. You're going to learn about water, air, earth, and fire, and you're all sitting in your category. So this little girl here, why she cries all the time is she's water. And this little girl here who keeps raising her hand, she's air. She's so curious. And this little girl who's so perfectly dressed, who looks like like Saturn on her sun, always dressed up, she's earth. And this little girl's fire, she wants recess. Hurry. And the kids got it. And the kid raised her hand and he said, I think my mom's water because she cried when we left our old house. And then when we got to the new house, she cried again.
I love that.
And then the little boy said, I think my brother's fire because he laughs so loud and so hard. My mom sometimes puts him in his room when he's laughing.
That is amazing. So why not? Why not have them in the schools?
I know, of course, you're working for the future. So you're a little bit ahead of us. We're not there yet. And you have a very enthusiastic, your Mercury's in Aries. So your mind is running into the future, which is why we're talking, you're in the future. But I want you all to know the future is a beautiful place. And the transition we're in right now is not comfortable. It's just true. We're in a very awkward, never had this before, never had 8 billion people in the history of the planet ever, never had cyberspace, didn't have podcasts, didn't have iPads, didn't have iPhones. Never. My grandmother would be saying, what is happening? So we're evolving. Good news, we're evolving. We're at a critical pitch, said the Mayans. The Mayans and Hopis. And I don't know if you know this is not good to say. The Dalai Lama said he's not reincarnating. Did you hear that?
No, that's the first time I've ever heard of it.
He said 13 lifetimes in a row, and he's not coming back. And it's partially because of the Chinese, because it's been dangerous.
Yeah. So what do we do?
What does that mean?
What do we do?
What?
What do we do?
What we have to do is we have to, one, do the emotional work, which I've been really working on because my chart's being activated, to calm myself down, to return to my observer, to do my prayers every day, to listen to music. You reminded me today, I'm telling you, I forgot, to listen to music, to soothe my nervous system. Do whatever it takes, you guys. Stop watching the news for periods of time. Put down your phone for periods of time. Take a break. It's just a bombardment, assaultment. And your job is to return to your element. Is it being quiet and being alone that serves you? Is it talking? You have a best friend? Mine's air. I got to talk. Is it earth, which is what Catherine says? She has to work. She gets off on making her list. It gives her comfort. And is it me, fire, that I have to exercise every day like a crazy person? That I cannot not swim, jump, pool, ocean, hike, bike? Yeah. Find your medicine. It's in my book. I don't believe in astrology. And in the book, I give very clear directions of each sign and what the medicine is.
I love that. So then when you're talking about the medicine, so let's say, because I know everyone has their moments, let's just call it a blue day, a moment. And so astrologically, when we know that there are things not working in alignment with where we are, because obviously it's not just about our blueprint, our chart, but then we're influenced by what's around us, correct? Right? So from a psychological...
100%.
Yeah. So then how do we work with that? Because I've seen some people say to me, Catherine, I'm experiencing this, I don't know what to call it. Let's call it depression, anxiety that I've never experienced in my life. And I don't know what to do about it. I'm hearing a lot more of that. I'm having my dark days. I'm having my blue days. So as a psychotherapist, and you work a lot with psychology and astrology, what would you say to those people?
The simple version is there are practices. It is really a practice. This is first, let's start here. It's an epidemic. And the epidemic is we all drink coffee. We all eat sugar. We all drink alcohol. We all eat foods that aren't good for us. We're all chewing on things. We're all informed by things that are toxic and we don't even know we're being affected. So there's the first issue. Of course, you're feeling anxious and more increased voltage. And yes, that's human. The the EEGs, no, what's it called? The
EMFs.
EMFs. I hear them all the time. I'd never heard them before. So it's now we are in a point of our history. I call it her story. It's not his story anymore. We're in the point of her story where she's now saying, ouch. And it's echoing in those of you that are sensitive, who really care about the collective. I love that every question you ask about the collective. It's so beautiful. So the collective is saying, woohoo, danger, danger. Okay, then my job as a midwife, as a helper, as a gifted speaker, or as a mother, or as a wife, or as a lover, any whatever, to soothe. Every day is a new day, and this is all I got. Now, if I can take my addiction to all the stimulus that makes me feel better, from coffee to sugar to podcast to whatever it takes to take away that feeling of being alone and being bombarded with something's wrong, then I become a healing agent. Now, how do I soothe my nervous system? You tell me what element you are and I'll help you. Some people need to be in hot tubs every day, saunas, hot and cold water. It makes the difference of their nervous system like you wouldn't believe. Some people really do need to talk and read and write and listen to podcasts. It relieves them of pressure. And you know who you are if it's really something that nutritionally feeds you and you're listening to the right. Of course, Catherine is a Mercury in Aries. She's an optimist. She's from the future. She's giving us hope. She's trying to give us a formula. She's asking the best questions. Good podcast to listen to. Some of you need to make practicality your medicine, from herbs to organic food to cooking to taking your shoes off to being in the garden. Do it and put the phone down. That's medicine. You cooking for us and making a household and cleaning up the back of your car, that's a symbol of you taking respectful relationship with the earth. The garden being tended to, thank you to all those earth. They think they're boring. They don't have anxiety. They have lethargy because they get tired easy because they work all the time. Anxiety is more air, like, and water is depression, like, I don't know what I'm feeling. And then fire are the people that get really loud and really bossy, and they have really strong opinions, and they push people away, and they end up alone, they gain weight, and they eat too much, and they spend too much, and they make fun of all of us because they don't know what else to do. They kind of are funny, but in a wicked way.
I love that. And so with astrology as well, people can identify, because quite often I hear people say, what's my purpose, Catherine? How do I find my purpose? So can people actually look at the astrology chart and know
100%.
exactly what they should be doing?
You especially. And now I want to tell you, because we're coming towards the end of this interview, and I wanted to give you that little tidbit.
Yep.
So today, I'm going to share my screen again. Today in the sky, Saturn is at 21 degrees of Pisces. So you know this, everyone knows this, when you're in 5th grade or whatever year you are, the planets go around, they orb. And the sun is in the middle, and then Mercury goes super fast, and Saturn goes a little slower, and Pluto goes really slow all the way on the outer ends, but they move into different moments, increments. And today, as an astrologer, I can look at the sky and go, oh, today, the sun is at 21 degrees of Pisces. So now we look at your chart. This happens once every 30 years. You were born when Saturn was at 19 degrees of Pisces. That's 4 degrees away. We call that a conjunction. You're in Saturn return. Did anybody tell you this?
Yeah. Yes, I
Not
know
only
that.
are you in Saturn, not only are you in Saturn return, but it's sitting on your sun. So it's going to affect everything in your world as far as purpose. You're asked the question about purpose. We use Saturn as our indicator. And if I spoke straight to you, and this is a really important piece of information, you're going into a very profound moment in your lifetime. And it's going to require a break before it goes into full speed. And you're going to get confused because you're ready to go. Am I right or am I right?
100% right. 100% right.
So when Saturn return arrives, here's a wisdom for all of you that are 28 to 30 or 58 to 60. Wake up and listen to me. At this moment, when Saturn return comes, yes, opportunities are like dun, 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 and you can feel the template shifting and there's winds moving. But your job is to sit still for a little bit. And it will be unnatural to you, Catherine. That might be a weekend off where you pull out the plugs, pull out the phone, and leave your hair and don't do your makeup.
Which is very rare.
I know. You don't think I know that?
Yeah.
It's a moment, it's as simple as it can be. Coming back to you, Miss I Love the Collective. What about you? What about you as a leader? What about me as a leader? I'll bring it here home. I have to be the truth in my embodiment of having my observer on. And the last few weeks, I just had a death of a friend yesterday. Don't make me cry. So
Sorry
it's
to
really
hear that.
thrown my whole system off. So I watch my observer come on and go, Deborah, you're kind of emotionally stressed and you're pretending you're not. Oh, thanks for the feedback. I didn't notice. Now I have to figure out what to do. Will I walk over that? Or will I actually stop? Good question. This is where awareness comes on, astrology comes on, the observer comes on, and it goes beyond thought to physical earth practical change to fire. Wow, do I feel different? I did what spirit asked me to do, which 9 times out of 10 for you and me is to stop.
Mm.
I'm not that good at it. How about you?
No, no, I wouldn't say that I'm very good at it at all. No, I wait for burnout, Deborah, till I'm actually lying flat on my back in my bed where my body just says enough, just enough. But I love the observer effect because I think that we've also been the way that I see it is very much it takes you out of the program, takes you out of the patterns, takes you out of that constant doing. So as the observer, you're seeing it from a different perspective and you're breaking state. So this is how I
Totally.
see it. You're breaking state.
Totally. You got it.
Yeah.
Yes. So this is why meditation is so important and it's so hard to do for a Gemini, for someone that has Mercury in Aries like you, because we're in Saturn on your sun. Like, I had to learn, like if it's 5 minutes today, it's 5 minutes. If it's a half an hour today, it's half an hour. If it's an hour today, good for you. I hardly ever let a day go by without, if it's meditation after yoga, I'm sitting in Shavasana and I just named it meditation time. I'm lying there in Shavasana with total, complete conviction to drop out of my mind, put it back on my body. Come on down, honey. That
Yeah.
symbol of the Hopis is so profound.
Absolutely. And I think also for our audience too, just the planets in itself, their archetypes. And I'd love to maybe unpack those a little bit so they understand, because yes, when you look at the glyphs, it looks very confusing because you think, well, what does that mean? But I think the understanding of, like, for example, Pluto and Saturn and Uranus, they all have their own characteristic. They're archetypes in itself. Did you want to kind of really high level talk about the
I love
archetypes?
that so much. Yes. So, when I do it, I want you guys in the audience to try to feel it. Don't let it just stay in your head. So I'm going to try to do my communication skill, which is to get people to touch something rather, because I have a learning disability and I learned that if I felt something, it stuck. But if it stayed in my head, I was interested, but it went, woo. Okay. So we're going to go furthest one out, Pluto, which is very strong in your chart. Pluto was only found in 1930. It's very recent. In the tarot deck, they left a card for it, the death card, but I don't know how they knew because they hadn't seen it when they organized those. It's like magic. But anyways, so Pluto arrives. It's right at the turning point of World War II, not unlike where we are now. Um, it's this unbelievable dark force that's coming over Earth. It's represents what you saw with Hitler. That's what Pluto represents, the underbelly, the underworld, the power planet, intensity. It was also the same time that Einstein was working with fission and fusion, that inside a cell, they could break it down so small, and if it went the wrong direction to fusion, it could turn into a bomb and destroy and kill, or nuclear power could be focused and used in a very powerful way with a very simple effort without it being destructive. It takes a lot around it. So there's a dualistic nature to Pluto. And if it's in your chart and it's hitting you, and in your case, this lifetime, it's very strong, it means that you will destroy in the name of waking up. You want to change. You want to learn at all costs. It's the caterpillar's image that he eats his own organs in order to become a butterfly. But, we're in that cycle right now. We're like, wait, you eat your own, wait, that just sounds horrible. But to a Pluto person, that's what I want you to feel right now. They go, oh, this is you, double Scorpio. I got this. Just a moment. Don't worry. We'll make it through here. That's what's true from a Pluto point of view. No matter what, you guys, the Earth will survive. The human condition will transform. AI will come in with new opportunities. And there's a very beautiful possibility that the great golden age is around the corner, but we can't see it. Who knew the butterfly was going to come out of that thing? I mean, It's crazy. My best friend has a butterfly tree. I didn't know this. I don't know if you know this. There's these trees where the butterflies, all these cocoons, like dozens of them. And you see them go through their stages. And it's right next to her shower. I'm in Hawaii outside. And I was like, I did not know this. And then all of a sudden, one by one, bloop, 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 Transformation City, right here next to her. So that's happening to us on the planet right now, but we can't see it. And you're comfortable with it, Catherine. That's why you're so comforted by the collectives. You're built for the job. You know what it's like to be able to calm yourself down in a crisis. We get anxious, get depressed, get nervous, get scared, get blah, 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 blah. So that's Pluto, 1930, power, transformation, intensity, knowing that things will all work out because it takes so long. In a whole year, Pluto moves 3 degrees like this. As Pluto. The sun, or sorry, the moon, boom, boom, in a month goes all the way, all 12 constellations. Mercury, so fast, goes backwards, goes so fast. But Pluto, 3 degrees, constant, in 1 year, just stays there. So it's a very strong influence. It says, please be patient. Don't push. It's all going to work out. Death and rebirth are best friends, I guess. It's hard to understand it because it's very easy for the mind to say yes, and you're a double Scorpio. But for those of us who like consistency, repetition, and safety, and guarantees and information, we're like, doesn't sound that safe to me. Okay, and then comes the planet next to it, who I adore. This is Neptune. In 2011, for the first time in 175 years, Neptune entered Pisces. It's been here now since 2000. It's leaving this summer. Neptune entered Pisces, and Neptune is the planet that rules magical, mystical doors, like ayahuasca and psilocybin, and this word called microdosing, and dreams and telepathy tapes, and people believing in magic, astrology, like blah, blah, blah. It's like the other. They found Neptune and they found cameras, and they told us a story about, believe it or not, the Wizard of Oz. And we all believed Dorothy was real and she had Tin Man and this little Toto. I don't know about your country, but in our country, this film is very central to our mythology. It's all a story. But we believed after the film came out, after cameras started, after we got to watch movies, our whole imagination went wild. That was never here before till Neptune arrived. So it gives us permission to dream. And that's why you're here in this podcast and why we need you so much. You've got to dream a new world in place. We cannot be victims to a negative trap door that some astrologer tells you we're doomed. It's not true. Neptune is elusive. It's telepathy. You can't see it. You can't hear it. You can sense somebody said something. You get to read their mind. You have a dream. You have an insight. You have an intuition. You had an ayahuasca journey and you got this download and it was so true. That's Neptune. I love Neptune. It's dancing. It's what I did my whole childhood. It's dancing and swimming and dolphins and no mind. It's the Tibetan practices, knowing how to quiet the mind into absolute stillness. It's a practice. Not many people can do that. And then just behind it is Uranus. Uranus was found right during the American and French Revolution. So it represents complete radical change. Like nothing's going to be the same. This is your planet as well. It's like the future, the past, time travel. In the tarot deck, it's the Fool. Like what a crazy person jumps into incarnate. The very first card of the deck is 0. It's the planet Uranus. It's a fool who jumps in and says, I want to go down to Earth. Really? Do you know how long that movie is? And do you know what's involved and what Earth is going through? Are you sure you want to go? 8 billion people. Oh, yeah. Oh, we all want to go. Oh, we're all in. Sign me. That's a volunteer position. They're waiting. They're just waiting to come in here. That's called Uranus. It's funny. That's called Uranus, the Fool, jumping into reality. It suggests in your chart a collective respect for the trends. For this, it can tell you what the right clothes are. It can tell you what the films are going to come out. It can tell you what good design is. It can tell you what style is. You have this in spades. A futuristic influence, Uranus, that revolutionized, changed the cultures around the world of the definition of hierarchy. It leveled the playing field. Let's have a country where everybody gets a vote, not the king and queen telling us what to do anymore. That's revolution. It's a little funny what's going on now in America because there's Some indicate that there could be some change of leadership, that we are no longer democratic the way we used to be. I don't want to have that debate right now. I can only tell you that Uranus is in full swing right now and is about to change signs. And this is the year that Pluto changed signs in 2024. Uranus change or Neptune changes signs this year, 2025. Uranus changes signs this year, 2025. And then our good friend Saturn changes signs this year. So everybody's changing. This has never happened before. So you just met Pluto, my good friend. He's very still and quiet. He thinks I'm crazy talking like this. Then comes our good friend Neptune, who's dreamy and mystical and probably didn't even remember half of what I said, but it felt good. And then came Uranus going, whoa, something's changing. I don't want to follow. I love this astrology shit. I love these little podcasts. It's brand new information. It's interesting. And then after him, behind comes your best friend, is Saturn. And Saturn says, excuse me, sit down. Can we make a list? Get this thing organized? Because those three are nuts. Saturn was the last planet we could see up until we got the invention of a telescope. We couldn't see anything besides Saturn. So Saturn was the last stop in the original system from the ancient astrologers, and it represented sit down. Let's talk about your destiny. If you can't know it, study Saturn. It will tell you what you promised to learn this life, how willing you are to work, how willing you are to work with discipline and obedience to your higher self. That was that second question I asked. How obedient are you? I'm sorry, I've got a little frog. Just clear. If you have a strong Saturn like you and I do, then you are very obedient. We eat well, we have discipline, we take care of ourselves, we take care of our people. So that's the last, I'm not going any further, but those are the 4 outer planets, and they're my best friends. I just introduced you to my best friends.
I love the way that you describe them. And I love the fact that also the way that you also mentioned that they change signs, because the signs it's almost like the outfits they wear, right? So this is how they show up, right? So when depends on like Pluto in Aquarius, for example, Pluto, even though the let's call him the king of transformation or the queen of transformation, being an Aquarius is a very different energy altogether, isn't it? So this is what you were talking about, the shifts in AI and things are moving fast and
humanitarianism, considering how we can create a new world, you guys. Pluto and Aquarius, the upside is we get to redesign the human condition, because it's not nice to have people hungry down the street. That's stupid.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. So I am conscious of your time, Debra, and I love the fact that you talked us through some of those archetypes, because it really did feel them as you were talking through them. I love the way that you were just explaining them. And so I think for our audience, highly recommend get Debra's book, do her courses. As you can see, she's very passionate about what she does, and the way that you describe them, it's so easy to digest. As I said, you make it really simple and easy to understand. And I just love the way that you explain everything. So anyway, so thank you so very much. The way that we wrap up the show is we always love to leave our audience with 3 shiny golden nuggets. So what are those 3 shiny golden nuggets? And they might be 3 shiny golden nuggets out of your book that you would like to leave for our audience today.
That's 3 shiny golden nuggets. One is nothing's wrong. I want you to let your nervous system settle in on that. Nothing's wrong. We're in a transition. This is really like someone's giving birth in a room and you would be all scared if you hadn't seen it before. Nothing's wrong. She's giving birth. It's dramatic. It's strong. It's scary. And Catherine and I are both here to tell you we've got a community around us. You do too. Find your people. That's my first golden nugget. Nothing's wrong. Second golden nugget, find your people. Community is everything. And too many people are lonely because of that funny thing we have. These funny things have left us without friends, except on text and telephones. The opportunity to reach out to someone, to take this podcast as an excuse to say, I realized how I could help the future. was softening my nervous system. If you have water or air strong in your chart, you need to touch someone, go get a hug, laugh with someone. So the first nugget that was so beautiful is, I always talk about prayer. That's probably the third one, is there's community, knowing who your people are, reaching out. And then there's asking for the higher self. Really, you guys, use this podcast to turn it off now and say to your higher self, come take over my life. I really want to be a student. I really want to learn. Be gentle with me. Don't hurt me. Just give me indicators, give me clues, give me signs, help me know my teachers, where I can find ancient wisdom, which podcast will tickle me, which yummy thing I can do tonight to have fun. You can go indulge, do whatever it takes to keep your nervous system soft and receptive and kind.
I love that. And I love the fact that also when you were talking about dropping into the heart, that's one thing that I practice as much as I can, because I can overthink, overanalyze, and overprocess. And then what I do as well as a daily practice is to surrender to my higher self. So I have sticky notes in my bathroom.
Yeah.
And I will say things like, what would you have me do? Where would you have me go? And this is from the Course of Miracles. And what would you have me say, and to whom? So I'm allowing myself to really not always drive an initiative, but actually surrender and accept to what will be.
I love that so much. That was such good direction, such good medicine. We all need medicine. Everybody's anxious, scared, depressed, lonely, overstimulated, understimulated, feeling unemployed, unneeded, feeling disconnected. There's so many flavors. And in the end, we all need to listen to what you just said and do our prayers.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Debra, I can't thank you enough. I can see that you really feel the energy because you move. I can see
I talk all the time.
Yeah, in a circular movement, and it's really feeling the energy. So I want to say thank you from my heart for coming on the show. And I know everyone's going to reach out to you. You do amazing work. So keep doing what you're doing.
And you too. Can I say thank you for them to you, because you are so committed to us. Listen to every question you asked was about the collective. I tried to give you information about your chart, but you're so selfless. And you've been doing this for how long?
The podcast, about 9 years.
9 years of devotion. That's Saturn on your sun, and you're in a major transit. And please take my gratitude and fill up your house with it.
Thank you. Namaste. Thank you, beautiful. Thank you so very much.